Hi, this is geologist Jerry Burgash, and I want to welcome you to our series on how to pick a good play sand for your sandbox. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. Out here you can see 5 different sands that we've done. This is what we call the sugar test, and that's what I'm going to show you today. At this end we have a sample of sand from the home improvement store. This one is from the big box store. This one is actually available both in educational stores and online, and the one on the end is available only online. And right here in this bag, I've got a sample of some really great beach sand from San Diego, Coronado Beach, and we're going to find out how good beach sand really is. So let's get started. So the first sand we're going to analyze for the sugar test is one random sample from the home improvement store. Just a reminder, the sugar test, as you can see here, the pure white cane sugar. Just think of sugar when you do this test. You can see how uniform, how beautiful it is. There's no chunks or pieces. And that's what we're going to evaluate all the sands that we do today. So here's the sample from the home improvement store. I'll smooth it out here so you can get a good view for it. So the sugar test analyzes the composition of the sand. And I've got a couple of basic household items here, a little strainer, a baggie, and I'll show you how to use those in a second. But I've poured out the sand from the home improvement center, and you can see, just as I pointed out here on the surface, we've got different particles. We've got a little rock, lots of little rocks, and then you can't make it out right here, but a lot of fine material. And that's where the kitchen strainer comes in, because if I just scoop up a little of this sand and start straining it out, of course the finer particles are going to fall out. But look what we're left with. We're left with just like a handful of little pebbles and rocks like that. If you're a kid and you're trying to make something, that's going to be really frustrating, because that's going to make your sandcastle fall apart. So that's one of the sugar test things. Again, remember the sugar, how uniform it is. The final test is just get a Ziploc bag, put a cupful in there, tap it a couple of times on your palm of your hand. And then what this really does, this makes it really obvious. You'll have all the particles separate. So you'll be able to see the bigger particles up here at the top. And then somewhere in here, you'll see a line where all the fine dust is. And of course, when you have that, that's a red flag. So let's go ahead and begin our analysis on the sample of sand from the big box store. We've got the strainer, just scoop up a little bit so we can separate it. And this comes in handy because you can see the difference between all the fine materials that fall out as well as the coarse. And it's the coarse ones that kind of frustrate the kids when they want to make a sandcastle. We've got the Ziploc bag here. Now this is really the telltale part, because if you remember, it looks good when you just look at the surface, but check this out in the Ziploc bag, because you can see all the coarser particles up here at the top, and then right here is a line with a lot of fine material. You'd call it dust or dirt, and this is what gets your kid all grimy and dirty. So that's the way to do the sugar test. So the first thing we do whenever we analyze a play sand is we look for particles. I've poured this beach sand out, and I think just looking in the camera, you can see we've got a variety of particles. Even though, I've got my kitchen strainer here, I'm not sure we really need to do this, but I'll do it anyway. There's just some miscellaneous particles, as you would expect in any beach. And the same thing with the baggie of sand. I can tap it, but I think that Mother Nature does a great job of making sand very uniform at the beach. If you look at this, you really just see the same grain size all the way through. So we do this because beach sand, we want to give you an idea. Everybody thinks beach sand is so perfect. This is actually a nice beach sand. And even though it varies around the country, the thing that most beach sands have in common is they're very, very fine. And even in the Gulf Coast, if you live down in the Gulf Coast area, they actually have a sand that they call the sugar sand. So of course, I think sugar sand, beach sand is going to pass the sugar test. So the next sand we're going to perform the sugar test on is the one that I got from the educational store. It's also available online. So let's pour that out into our tray so we can begin the test. So the first thing you want to take a look for is just look at the uniformity of the sand. I think if you look at this and compare it to the sugar, the pure cane sugar, you have to admit they look almost identical. This is maybe a little bit more granular. This is actually pretty fine, very fine in fact. So we get our kitchen strainer, we're going to strain it, and I don't I don't think we're going to get any foreign particles, obviously. There it is. It's very, very fine grained. And we put a cup of it in the Ziploc bag, shake it in the palm of your hand or on the table. And what this does is it separates the particles, so the bigger particles are at top and the finer ones here at the bottom. And you can see it's pretty uniform. So in this case with the sugar test, you get a real good idea that this looks just like sugar. So now we're going to go ahead and do the sugar test. And as you can see, I've poured some of pure cane sugar out here into this tray. And the sugar test, of course, is for uniformity and just general appearance. I've got some kitchen items here that we'll use in the test. I'll pour this sand, which we did get from online. Pour that out. And we're going to analyze it. So the first thing we do whenever we analyze a play sand is we look just for the general appearance to compare it to the sugar, look for foreign particles. Are there rocks, little pebbles? I get my kitchen strainer out, do a quick sieve. You can see there's no foreign particles at all. We get our Ziploc bag, we tap it to try and get the fines to settle. And you can see it's beautifully uniform. There's no big particles. It's all pretty much similar size. So that'll go a long way in terms of the pleasantness of playing with the sand. And I just want to comment one final thing. If you think about some of the iconic beaches around the world, the pink sands of Bermuda, the black sand beaches of Hawaii, those are beautiful sands. So just the fact that it's not the same color as sugar is not something that eliminates it, because that kind of adds potentially to the beauty of the sand. So that's the sugar test. So in summary, let's go ahead and review the sugar test, because when you go out to buy play sand, you want your sand to look like sugar. This is a great example right here, nice and uniform and pure. You're looking for sand that's pure and clean. This is also what you want to look for. You don't want the little rocks and pebbles, because it's the rocks and pebbles and the dust that's left on your finger that's going to make your kid dirty. So just remember, the sugar test is critical. Thanks for watching, and remember to check out the next video in our series. Is your play sand a good play sand for making sand castles? Thanks for watching.